Hello students, this is a short video on Ujjayi breathing. So in the Ashtanga Vinyasa system, it's a breath-led practice. And that's why what we do with the postures, how we modify them, how we undertake our journey towards doing a full practice, that is the physical side of things, but more importantly is the breath. It's a breath-led practice, and the breath that is used is Ujjayi. So you can't really do a traditional Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga without learning to do Ujjayi. And there's some really compelling reasons why this technique should be learned. So we know that in our normal lives, the breath is unconscious, and you may have good breathing habits, bad breathing habits. You may be breathing shallowly or deeply, but for most of the time, you're just not conscious of your breath because you're engaged in other activities, you're working, you're driving, you're doing whatever. So the breath in yoga is brought under conscious control. And the reason we do that in the whole of the yoga tradition is to have an effect on the body and in particular on the mind. So conscious control of the breath, mindful breathing, is really the heart of yoga, the essence of yoga. So we normally begin in a general Hatha Yoga class simply by connecting students to breath and deepening their breath, getting them to watch the breath and witness the breath. So Ujjayi is a step on from that, and it is to bring a measure of control and regulation to the breath. And this is done in a way that enables you to hear the breath. So there's a kind of gross physical level to doing Ujjayi, but there's also a subtle side to it. And the more that you can control the flow of your physical breath, the more you can control flows of energy, the yogic concept of prana flowing around the body. Okay, so some of you are probably already experimenting with Ujjayi. Some of you may be very familiar with it. Some of you may be a little bit reticent to breathe with a Ujjayi breath because it involves creating sound and people can become self-conscious. But actually you're only creating enough sound that it should be audible to the person on the next mat and not a great big loud sound. So let's do some Ujjayi technique. And the way to begin is to find the sound of the Ujjayi breath on the exhale through the mouth. So if we bring up the hand and pretend we've got a mirror and we simply breathe in through the nose and then we're making a ha sound, and it's as if we're trying to steam up a little mirror in front of us. And this should feel like a very free sigh, and you can feel the sound emanating from the vocal cords, from the glottis, from the throat area, and it's not in the nose. It's not a sniffing out. When we do this practice in full, it's in and out through the nose, but there's no sound coming from the nose. It's always emanating from the front. Let's try that again. Breathe in through the nose and a long, smooth ha exhale through the mouth. So we want to internalize that sound. So what we'll do for this next stage of learning Ujjayi is halfway through the exhale is to close the mouth but continue the same sound. Because it's emanating from the throat, the sound won't change, but the volume will change because it will become more internal as the second half of the exhale comes out of the nose, not the mouth. So this one will be like this. Let me do that for you one more time. And when you've practiced that for a little while, you're going to try to just do all the exhales through the nose. So then it'll be we start with finding that sound on the exhale because it's just easier, it's more accessible. through the mouth is most accessible, exhaling through the nose is the next most accessible. But after a little while, you want to be able to create that sound on the inhale as well as the exhale. If you want to, you can try that through the mouth first, like this. So it's that ha sound again, but this time it's there on inhale and exhale. And then try what we did just now. So begin the ha through the mouth on the inhale, close the mouth, continue it with the nose. So we're deliberately moving that breath from outside to inside, and after a little while you should feel confident enough to try to create that sound in and out through the nose, both on inhale and exhale, and that will sound like this. Okay, don't worry if that takes a little while to get. Occasionally, if you've got a tickly throat, then it will irritate it. So if you've got a cough or a cold or anything going on there, you'll either have to just wait for that to clear up, or it might be that you're over trying to do your Ujjayi and that is leading to an irritation in that area. It needs to be a very soft, a very free breath, a very relaxed sighing sound. It's just a way of metering and controlling the breath, and it's not meant to be a tightening, a contraction of that breath. Just a couple of other things that are important to understand around working with Ujjayi. So the breath is in the chest and not in the belly. So we talk about this in class all the time. When we're doing Ashtanga Yoga, we're creating a soft stillness below the navel. This is like a very subtle engagement of what you will read about in yoga books as Uddiyana Bandha, but Uddiyana Bandha is a separate, stronger practice. But when we just draw up through the lower abdomen, through the pelvic floor, we create a stillness that comes up to about the navel, and above the navel, the belly should feel spongy and not rigid, so that you're not interfering with the working of the diaphragm. Actually, what is happening, for those interested in the anatomy side, is that your diaphragm is your main breathing muscle, but when you create stillness below the navel, its main action is to push the lower ribs out on inhale and they come in on exhale. So that is the feeling you want, the lower ribs expanding. There's a little bit of external intercostal work as well as the rib cage is lifted. But we're not looking for the most amazing deep breath. What we're looking for is a perfectly equal rhythm of inhale and exhale. So another way you might practice this when you have the sound going on is just to place the fingertips or the palms on the lower abdomen, and as you breathe in and breathe out, silently count to 6, so that you get into that habit of having this circular, this very equal breath. And that would look something like this. Now that's quite a slow Ujjayi, and you might find yourself doing that rhythm when you're in your Paschimottanasana, your seated forward bend, and holding that for 5 breaths. If you're in Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana, standing, balancing with a leg out in front and using a lot more muscle energy, the rhythm could be a little quicker than that. So it's an even rhythm of breath throughout the practice, but some practices demand just a little bit more energy to them to give the body the energy it needs, the oxygen it needs. So an Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana Ujjayi might sound a little bit more like this. Ujjayi pranayama is a fantastic breathing practice, a fundamental breathing practice. It is also a classical pranayama mentioned in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the medieval text, which is one of the source texts for modern Hatha Yoga. You can use this in your practice, but it also works very well as a standalone pranayama, so you may wish to just sit and do some slow, mindful Ujjayi breathing as part of a lead-in practice for your seated practice, for your meditation. Very good at calming the mind and calming the body, so it's a really good practice when done late in the evening. Don't do your Ashtanga primary series last thing at night, because you will not get to sleep. That's an awakening practice, but just the breathing practice, and it is really good to practice the breathing separately as a separate practice from the asana practice, and it will help you calm the mind, find the dharana, the focus of the mind, and if you're lucky, you'll also slip into meditation. So that is Ujjayi. I hope that's helpful, and see you in class. Thank you.